Hello again, YouTube. It's Skylar. Welcome back to my face. And in this video, I'm going to talk about letting go of perfectionism. Now, before we get into it, I did want to point out that I did miss my last upload date. So I apologize for that. I just have a lot of stuff going on between, um, me running for office, writing a book, working 3 jobs, and running my own business. It is a lot, and but I know that's not an excuse to not upload when I say that I'm going to. So I apologize for that if it was an inconvenience for anybody. Um, Moving forward, I wanted to let everybody know um, that I am going to try to upload as much as I can. But if I have a little bit of a delay between uploads, no, that's just because I am kind of completely overwhelmed right now with everything going on in my life, and not necessarily because I'm, trying to avoid YouTube. Um, so let's get into it. Now, what do I mean when I say letting go of perfectionism? Well, personally, I've always been a workaholic and I've always been a perfectionist. And every time that I try to go for a goal, I always go for the gold. I always try to do my best and try my hardest and, get that number one spot. And so a lot of times I can, get down on myself if I don't measure up to exactly the standard that I think I should. And it can be really challenging sometimes because perfectionism and procrastination kind of go hand in hand, where because it's not perfect, I'm going to spend more time on a project, and because I'm spending more time because it's not perfect, it ends up not happening. And I feel like I'm probably not the only one that deals with this type of dilemma. So here I wanted to offer a few helpful tips that have worked for me. The first is letting go of the need to have everything be exactly the way that you want it to. Sometimes in life, things don't go the way that you anticipated. I think most people can attest to that. And it's really important to understand that it's okay to not always measure up to the standard that you think that you're going to. And again, this is something that's been very difficult for me, being somebody that's always been an overachiever. But I've learned, especially recently, with a lot of things that I've dealt with in my personal life, that sometimes you have to let go of the expectation that everything is going to go exactly the way that you want it to. And the sooner that you can do that, the sooner you're going to be able to embrace the nuances of the basically the hands that you're dealt in life. And I feel like this really ties into being transgender also, because when you transition, you have a certain set of expectations. Well, this is, I'm going to do this, and then HRT is going to do that, and then I'm going to, do all of my transition. I'm going to transition, and then everything is just going to be perfect from then on out. And the reality is that, yeah, you don't have to deal with dysphoria anymore, and yeah, you are in your true authentic self, but life is still always going to be life outside of that. And so after you transition, it's not that your life is going to be perfect, it's just now that you're going to be able to live your life just the same way that any cisgender person is. And that includes having to deal with normal everyday life that can be challenging sometimes. And I feel like the sooner that I started letting go of the expectation that everything's going to turn out exactly the way that I want it to, the sooner I can actually start to embrace the things that I do have in my life and the things that I would normally have taken for granted, and really get to enjoy and experience um, a lot of the things that normally you would think are just, stepping stones to a goal and not the goal itself, but realizing that it's the journey in of itself is part of the reward and not necessarily always the destination. Having gone through transition now for over a decade, I can say that it's been very difficult um, for me personally, emotionally, psychologically, hormonally, and socially. And throughout all of that, I don't regret any of it. I love being transgender. I love who I am. I am a better person because I'm trans. I am a more compassionate, more empathetic human being because I have had a transgender experience in my life as opposed to not. And I wouldn't trade that for anything, even though my life has had quite a bit more challenges and I've had to deal with a lot of things that most people on this planet won't have to deal with. In fact, 99% of people who are not transgender are not going to understand most of what the transgender experience for that person is. And you see that in everything, in politics, which being trans isn't political, it's really not. Um, but you just, even just in trying to have other people understand your experience who aren't necessarily even hostile to trans identity, they still have their it's very challenging for them to still be able to fully understand exactly what it's like to be trans. And so one thing that I kind of wanted to take away from this video is learn to love the you that you are right now without the expectation of who you might become. And what I mean by that is, even though you don't have, or you might not be everywhere that you want to be right now, learn to appreciate the place that you already are. Learn to appreciate the now and the moment that you're in and the things that you have in that moment. Because even if things might very well be much better in the future, you only get to enjoy the now, because what happens if those plans don't go exactly the way that they were supposed to? What if you don't get that house on the beach? What if you don't get that promotion to CEO? And I'm just throwing examples out there, but you have to take those things into consideration too, because it's always nice to sit back and think, oh, well, my life will be so much better when. But what if when doesn't end up happening the way that you think it will? Are you going to regret not taking the time to appreciate the place that you already are? And obviously, if you're in a situation that's, unhealthy or unsafe, that has to be fixed pretty quickly. But I'm talking about just normal, mundane, everyday life. Are you taking the time to really enjoy going on a walk? Are you really enjoying the time to go out and eat food? And I'm not saying that, maybe you are, but really having to enjoy that moment is really where it counts. Because if it's not the now, if it's not right here in the now, then it's all conjecture. It's all speculative. And I've never experienced speculative happiness. I've only experienced happiness that I can actually enjoy. So, with that said, I hope that was helpful and informative to anybody out there. Um, like I said, I've been kind of all over the place with my schedule, so I apologize if this video is just coming out of left field, and I am trying to get back onto a normal schedule here soon. But I did want to uh, upload a video, even if it wasn't the exact topic that I had been planning for, just to show that I'm trying to get videos out there so that I still have content. Because I do appreciate every single subscriber and every single person that watches my video. Because it really does make a difference. And, my message and the trans experience deserves to be heard and appreciated. So with that said, please remember, if you haven't already, to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing videos. And I'll see you guys all in the next video. Have a wonderful day.